It seems to me that trend of commoditization and increasing power of commercial off-the-shelf server hardware is also driving this whole direction towards network function virtualization. That is taking functions like routing or session border control or deep packet inspection and putting those into hypervisor environments or clouds as virtualized software appliances. I mean, Joe, do you see SDN and NF, network function virtualization, as kind of going hand in glove?
Not really. I mean, we believe there will be instances in the network where you could have COTS or common off-the-shelf hardware, but I believe there will be many functions and network elements where you need special purpose hardware. If you take it, for instance, down in the network, I believe today it's quite hard to say you're going to do a baseband on COTS or a special purpose, highly intelligent network elements to just do it on COTS. But we do see use cases where COTS might make sense, absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's places where, let me step back. I mean, the way I look at this is all the traffic that we see on our networks, whether it's Verizon or any other tier one carrier, is coming from commercial off-the-shelf silicon.
Yeah.
Whether it's video cameras, people's laptops, computers, servers, and data centers, it's all the traffic is being generated by these chips, these capabilities that are increasing their performance at Moore's law.
Yeah.
All right. So that's putting this tremendous demand onto the network, and it's just going to keep going. I mean, even through the tough economic times, we haven't really seen a downward turn at all, or a change in the rate of growth of bandwidth on our backbone. It just keeps going. So in the core of the backbone, where you're dealing with all the aggregated traffic, merchant silicon or COTS will never really be able to work there. You're going to need to have optimized ASICs designed for that. Yeah. As you move towards the edge, where you have less aggregation and more service capability, where you're touching the customer service, that's where the potential use of COTS can play. But I think the important point is that we don't want to build islands. We're trying to build a common framework that really allows us to optimize the service across the network, which means edge to core to edge.
Yeah.
To do that, the SDN framework has to work both in speaking to what I'll call traditional ASIC-based, highly optimized routers and switches, as well as either routers or switches or virtualized, open flow-based routers and switches that are really just COTS servers or computers at the edge. We need a framework that spans all of that. If we solve for just one piece, we haven't really moved the needle very much.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I think.
How do you see it?
Well, we've been very pleasantly surprised by just how powerful commercial off-the-shelf servers have become, and what can be accomplished. The data plane performance of a typical Intel-based server has improved orders of magnitude, literally in the last 5 years. So, I mean, clearly. Vendors like Intel have recognized the opportunity that this market presents. The concept of the communications computer, if you like. So I'm absolutely with Stu on this idea that in the core of the network, where you're moving trillions of bits per second, there's no question you need very specialized hardware to do that.
Yeah.
But at the edges where you're applying the service value, then the COTS hardware does a fabulous job, and it's really quite surprising how much value you can add in the data plane as well as the control plane by being intelligent what you do with that COTS hardware. And I also think that one of the stated benefits of network function virtualization that I particularly like, because we're a relatively small vendor, is that it opens up the network to innovative new players. That small companies that have a tremendous amount of expertise, as we do in signaling protocols and communications protocols and control plane software, can now play a part, because once the underlying physical hardware opens up and standardized APIs and control protocols are exposed, then the path is open for innovators like us to bring value to those networks where previously it was a closed door to us.
I'd echo that. I mean, that's an important piece. As the internet grew, as IP technologies grew and the internet grew, it started very similarly. A lot of small players, but it's become very mature, very closed, and that's natural. I mean, that's a life cycle of a technology. SDN does open the door, if we do this right. It opens the door for a lot of innovation. And I think the carriers, I can speak for Verizon, we've been craving that innovation. And it's very hard for us to go and work with and see all of the innovative startups and small companies. In our traditional network, the way that technology typically gets to us is through M&A activities on the vendor side.
Yeah.
That can be a slow process. We don't have a lot of say in those selections of what small guys the big guys buy to then sell to us. This gives us more direct line of sight and ability to work with a lot of new players that really, as you said, have been closed out of the network.
But don't you believe that in each and every technology you have so many players, and as each and every technology evolves, you'll see consolidations, and some companies make it, some others don't. So why would it be different in SDN? Because even if we open the door for, every single technology today, when it evolves, you have so many players, and it's sometimes type of hype around it as well. But then as it matures and goes along, you get fewer and fewer players.
You get consolidation, but what you do get, I think, with a new wave of technology like this is you get a whole bunch of startups, and the very smartest people in the communications technology business gravitate to those startups because that's where the fun is, that's where the excitement is, and that's where the money's going. So of course there'll be huge shakeouts, and probably only 1 in 10 of those companies will survive. But it certainly does. It does mean that big operators, have the chance to bring in pieces of technology in a fairly non-disruptive kind of way into their networks, provided, of course, that they can persuade the vendors of that installed base of equipment to open up those boxes, to support OpenFlow and PCE protocol and those other protocols that actually enable an SDN infrastructure to be built on top of it.